Freedom's the answer. What's the question? You're listening to Ernest Hancock.
Don't stop me now. I'm having such a good time. I'm having a ball. Don't stop me now. If you want to have a good time, just give me a call. Don't stop me.
Hey, don't stop me now. We're having a good time. You know, when Mark and I get together, usually we do the 3-hour show and just do the whole thing. We're going to try and do an hour and a half. There's just so many things that we can talk about, but I wanted to go ahead and highlight and finish up on some stuff we were talking about, and there's some other things that we can talk about. Now, of course, it's Freedom Summit, freedomsummit.com. Make sure you guys go to that, and he and I got to do some talking about that. I went to the resort again today, so we worked out some deals. But the thing is that in the last segment, what happened in the courtroom in Scottsdale was this. The judge and all the everybody wanted to get the piece of Freedom's Phoenix and Shelton in particular, 4409. They're going to get him. And the camera fraud vans were out, and they were doing a lot of activism with the camera fraud stuff and videos, and it was really making them look bad, and they wanted to get them a piece of something. They charged them with just made up stuff, Well, what happened was the prosecuting attorney that was there, he's wanting to dismiss. He didn't want to do this. He's like, hey, somebody's making me do this, so they went through it. The judge goes to him and says, I am willing to entertain an argument that the mere dispatch of an officer to anything is enough sufficient evidence of a crime being committed that then you get to ID everybody, even though state statute here is that you don't just get to go up to somebody and say, give me your ID unless they're suspected of a crime or having committed the crime or going to, throw a Molotov cocktail or something like that. You just don't go around papers, please. That's what this comes down to, is a papers, please thing. So the prosecuting attorney goes up to the judge with the law. Well, I just want to make sure here's the law and what it says.
Well, because you remember what happened was I'm the one who made the argument to the judge and said, hey, judge, there's been no violation of the law. You need to dump the case. And the judge said, denied. And the prosecutor was as surprised about that as I was. And so that's when the prosecutor approached and said, hey,
Mark's right.
Yeah, and without saying Mark's right, yeah, Mark's right. And the judge said, okay, then I'm going to change my ruling.
Well, he kept doing it. It was 5 charges, and it went down to, the 4 to 3 to 2 to 1. Had the one final one they wanted was the IDing part. Man, they really wanted that. And when it was done, I tell you what happened. When it was done, they would go through all of this stuff, and Mark's doing, I would love to show you this DVD of I would love to put him on the stand. He went through his Mark Victor thing, And what happened, and he's kind of looking back at us, we're going to go, man, go. So what happened was, finally the judge, fine, boom, dismissed, it's all done. And we all sat there, there's probably half a dozen of us, we just sat there stunned. Did we see what we just think we saw? Now, Mark is turning around going, yeah, man, this is what happens all the time. And I'm going, wow, man, how can you be in this profession and have any hope, that the government's going to be, what are you, man? You're just there trying to snatch us out of the tornado or what?
Yeah, essentially that's what it is, and that's pretty much how I describe the system to people. I say, I describe it as the, what do I say, a 20-story high Tasmanian devil that's drunk and powerful and reaching out, and he grabs you, and he's going to eat you. And, sometimes I lube you up, and I can slide you right out nice, and other times I got to chop off a limb, but it's better than being eaten. That's how it works. You don't reason with that beast. You don't say, oh, excuse me, this isn't any way to act. Why are you acting? You don't do that. The beast doesn't act like that.
There was one thing we talked about we wanted to get to was you and Judge Buttrick were talking about this attempt by the judges to use contempt charges to get around the drug laws or something. What were you talking about?
Yeah, well, this was a while back when Proposition 200 came in, as originally passed by the voters. Just a little bit of background. Arizona says it's a felony offense to have a tiny bit, however small, amount of marijuana. And, of course, any wrapping paper that may be holding that marijuana or any bag or any pants pocket or virtually anything is drug paraphernalia. So it's very common that somebody who has a marijuana cigarette be charged with 2 felony offenses, and that's for your first time. And so, like any other Class 6 felony, which is what the lowest level felony is, you're at risk of up to 2 years in prison. And that's what the risk was when I started practicing. Well, Prop 200 came along in 96 and changed the law and said, look, if you're convicted of this particular felony offense, you can't go to jail. You're put on probation. And then if you screw up on probation, you can have other sanctions, but still no incarceration. And some judges didn't like that, and they were trying to get around that. So what they said is, I'm going to make it an order that you're going to be on probation, and you're not to do this, that, and the next thing. And if you violate that order, I'm going to hold you in contempt, and I can put you in jail for violating my order and being held in contempt. Said another way, I'm going to try myself to get around the law, and I'm going to be able to put you in jail even when you screw up on probation, and even when the law specifically says you can't go to jail.
I'm going to make up my own law.
I'm going to find a way around it, which is the same kind of thing that bothered me a few months ago, back when that pastor down in Florida decided he wanted to burn the Koran to make a statement. And Fox News came out and had some legal analysts on there and said, technically, yeah, he's got a right to make that statement. It's protected by the First Amendment, but we're trying to get around it. Maybe there's a zoning problem, or there's a disorderly conduct, or a burning type of a problem.
Or you didn't have a burn permit.
Yeah, we'll find some way to shut this guy down. Why? Because they're trying to get to the speech that's offensive to them, the speech that they don't want to let another person hear. And so they're going to try to use some mechanism, because there's so many laws out there. Let's find something to silence this guy. And my take on that is that's just flat un-American.
Well, the one thing that kind of focus in on the Scottsdale thing, because it had so many things that came up. The officer didn't think he was doing anything wrong. Yeah, of course I asked for everybody's ID.
Right.
Of course I do.
I remember him saying, I feel, and I...
Baseline.
I was kind of ticked off, and I said, so you just think that anytime you come in contact with another American citizen, you get to force them to produce their walking papers or something along those lines? And he said, well, I have a right to get a baseline, find out who I'm encountering. It was outrageous. It was just outrageous.
And do you think there was like a, law sensitivity, knowing what I'm talking about training that went to Scottsdale?
No.
No?
No.
You don't think so?
No. But, there needs to be some training in terms of the American people. And, even, Ernie, I think there's a lot of people who pretend or they like to think they're for freedom. And this is the real reason I wrote that article recently called "Are You Really for Freedom?"
Yeah, if you Google that, you'll find it.
Yeah.
Are you really for freedom? Marc Victor with a C, M-A-R-C.
It's also on my website, attorneyforfreedom.com, because, look, it's easy to support another person's right to do something that you personally aren't offended by, or something that you might do yourself. That's a big deal. I don't care about that. So, if you're an alcohol drinker and you support someone else's right to drink alcohol, woo, whip-de-doo. If you're a pot smoker and you support someone else's right to smoke pot, big deal. The question is, when you hate smoking pot, do you support another person's right to smoke pot? Or when you hate drinking alcohol, do you support another person's right to drink alcohol? I mean, or when somebody is going to say something that you absolutely, positively disagree with, do you nonetheless support their right to say it? And to me, that's the test about whether you're really for freedom.
And your peers in I wouldn't say law enforcement. I mean, do you consider them your peers? You deal with them a lot. You even have a lot of law enforcement friends.
Cops?
Yeah.
They're not my peers, no. My peers are other criminal defense attorneys.
Yeah, I know. I misspoke there, but it made me think about, you do deal with a lot of officers. Tons. And are they of that mind that they're the law? I'll give you a reason why.
Well, let me address that before you move on, because it's important. Look, any time that you try to broad brush a group, almost any time that you try to broad brush a group, including cops, you're going to come out with the wrong answer. And so when you say, do they this, do they that, I can't answer that question. It's true. There are some very good police officers out there who get the concept of, think of themselves as being a peace officer. They get the concept that other people get to do things they don't like.
Does the system encourage that, though?
I don't know.
I tell you, this is my point. I have my son-in-law, his roommate before he married my daughter was a cadet, or whatever. He was in the academy, okay? Became a law enforcement. And, we have interesting we're not allowed to talk. Hey, how you doing? We don't talk about issues or anything. Because the training and what he was told was his job, and the older officers versus the younger ones, you can tell the difference. And I'm going, man, it was just, well, I want to get Marc's input on this when we come back. We'll be right back here on Declare Your Independence. You guys stay right there.